You ever wonder if there's a cheap low deflection shaft out there? Can one replace an OB or a Predator shaft? Well, today I have here a cheap low deflection shaft that I received in the mail as a temporary replacement for my OB, which needs to be sent in for repairs. So let's see how this one stacks up. I have here an LD skinny shaft. It happens to be an HXT skinny shaft by Players. Now, for those of you who don't know who Players cues are, they make affordable entry-level cues, and they also make an upper end lineup called Pure X, which this shaft happens to be a part of. I didn't even know they made an LD shaft until I was looking for a temporary replacement for my OB, which I need to send into the shop. I plan on trying this out in an upcoming tournament as well as some league play over the next few weeks and see how it works out. Now, for the fans that are new to pool, LD stands for low deflection. And what deflection is when the cue hits the cue ball. With some English, it's the amount the cue ball is going to depart from your line of aim on your shot. Now, this is also what's known as squirt. Now, the primary advantage of a low deflection shaft is I don't have to compensate for that deflection and squirt, which means I can keep my point of aim pretty much true and I don't have to do any compensation. Now, LD shafts also tend to have a stiffer hit than regular shafts. Most people, when they try LD shaft, they absolutely love them. However, there's still quite a few people that prefer traditional hitting shafts. Now, I'm not going to go into any more detail between a regular shaft and an LD shaft in this video because this is primarily a review of the HXT skinny shaft. I personally like both, but I do shoot with an LD shaft most of the time. So now let's look at the specs. The HXT skinny shaft comes in an 11 3/4 millimeter, and it has a regular version which is 12 3/4 millimeter. Both come standard with a Kamui soft tip. This is the same diameter and tip as my OB shaft, which I've become accustomed to and have a hard time shooting with bigger diameter shafts nowadays. You can get this shaft in several different joint pin types to include Unilock, Turbolock, 3/8 by 10, 5/16 by 15 piloted, 5/16 by 18 piloted, and radial. Mine happens to be a radial, which was hard to find in the skinny version, but I was able to get it off of eBay. The taper appears to be a pro-type taper, but it does start tapering further up the shaft than my OB. Another thing I forgot to mention when it comes to the LD shafts is you can get a smaller diameter tip with an LD shaft than you normally can with a regular shaft. What this allows you to do is you can do a lot more stuff with the cue ball. However, the degree of difficulty goes up quite a bit with a smaller diameter tip. Now let's talk warranties. The HXT shafts have a lifetime guarantee against warpage, material, and manufacturing defects. The tip and finish, however, are not covered because that's part of normal wear and tear. If you need to have your shaft replaced, they will replace it with the same model or one of equal value. But you need to hang on to your receipt, which has to be from an authorized dealer. And by the way, the warranties are not non-transferable. All right, let's talk about some technology behind this shaft. This shaft has a lightweight polymer core, which aids in reducing deflection. This core, however, is only behind the ferrule area, and the rest of the shaft appears to just be a regular shaft. This is a lot different than most other production LD shafts out there today, where the shaft itself is built to be low deflection. So, with the core being behind the ferrule area only, I'm not quite sure how this is going to stack up against the more expensive competitors. Let's talk about the price now. I bought this for $124. That's less than half the cost of an OB or Predator shaft out there. So, is it worth it? Let's shoot some balls and get some first impressions. first impressions. This shaft isn't that bad. It hit okay. It felt a lot lighter than my OB shaft. However, when I actually checked the weight, it's the same weight as my OB shaft. It did have a tink kind of hollow hit from time to time. I'm not quite sure if that might be the polymer core doing that. I'm just not sure. The finish felt a little weird. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but that could be because it's a newer shaft and I just haven't gotten used to it yet. The English that I got on the cue ball, the action, the movement was just superb. It was awesome. Definitely acted like a low deflection shaft. Every now and again though, I would get some feedback vibration up the shaft. Now I had some slow-mo footage here of the shaft actually striking the cue ball, and you can kind of see that vibration. I don't have any other slow-mo footage of a regular shaft or any other shafts to compare this to. It's just something I thought worth noting. Now, for my particular taste, I like a shaft or a hit that's nice and smooth with very little feedback. And this has a little more feedback than I like. So that's about it of the first impressions of this shaft. Like I said, it's not too bad. I am going to use it in an upcoming tournament and some couple weeks of league play. So once I'm done with that, I'll come back and give you a final analysis. All right, so I've had some time now with this HXT shaft. I've practiced a lot with it, briefly played in the tournament, and had some league play. Now notice I said briefly played in that tournament. When I got to the tournament, I just could not get a consistent hit or feel out of this shaft the whole time. I shot with and without a glove. Nothing seemed to work. It was so bad that I had to go back to my regular shaft. I could not do that. I could not shoot with it anymore. So when I came back and practiced with it some more, I still could not get any consistent hit or feel out of it. I started noticing though that the finish was kind of giving a little bit of friction in my bridge hand. So I decided to take my burnishing sandpaper to it, as well as my cue cleaning products, and just cleaned it up and resealed it, took that top layer off, and I tell you what, that meant the world. It shoots so much better now. It's very smooth, very consistent feel, just night and day difference. So if you end up getting this shaft, I highly, highly, highly recommend you do that. It means the world. With that said, would I recommend this shaft to anybody? At $124, it's less than half the cost of an OB or Predator shaft. It's definitely worth the money. It is an LD shaft. It plays like an LD shaft. Now, is it going to shoot like an OB or a Predator? No, my OB is much better than this. I don't have a Predator shaft to compare it to. I used to play with some Predator shafts, but I can't give you a good comparison between a Predator shaft and this one, but I would definitely venture a guess that it'll definitely be not as good as a Predator shaft. So, but it's still worth the money. It's still worth it. It's good if you can't afford an OB or Predator shaft. It's definitely worth it. If you need a temporary replacement, definitely worth it. I highly recommend it for the price point. Matter of fact, I'm going to hang on to this and I'm going to keep playing with it. I'm going to have it as my backup shaft, use it whenever I need to. I'm definitely going to keep this one. I'll have links in the description below on where you can buy these. I definitely, like I said, would recommend it. And thank you for watching. If you have any other comments or questions about this or myself, please leave them in the comments below. I appreciate you guys coming and spending the time on this review. So please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.